Yo, what's going on everybody? Today is Monday, January 25th. Thanks for joining me again. If you're new here, I would love it if you consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with everything going on with the PPP, EIDL, all that crap right now. And if you're not new here, if you're returning, thanks for joining me again. I really appreciate you. Be sure to give this video a like if you find it useful, and please share it with your friends and family who you might think will find it useful. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about some things that you might need to know, or at least you should need to know, in regards to the new PPP, or at least this new PPP era at the beginning of 2021. Okay, so first things first, when will this program end? This program will end on March 31st, 2021, and that's for first and second draw PPPs. Okay, now the interim final ruling states that on March 31st, 2021, that is the last day that you have to receive and apply for the PPP. So what does that even mean? So obviously you can apply on March 30th, 2021, and you're allowed to apply March 30th, 2021, but that doesn't guarantee you funding for the PPP, okay? So what that means for you is just don't wait until the last minute to do this. Apply now if you're really considering getting the PPP. Even if you're on the fence about it, just apply, and you can turn it down if for some odd reason you want to. But don't wait till last minute, because we had that happen the last time around in 2020 where a bunch of people just kind of freaked out last minute. They applied even within the last week, and many people did not get funding because it was just too many applications for the SBA to dig through or to approve, okay? So the program ended with over $150 billion left, but many people did not get funded. So don't wait till the last minute. All right, the next question I get frequently is, if you have not received the PPP yet, can you get it this time? And the answer is yes. So the PPP that was introduced in 2020 is now called the first draw PPP, and the PPP that was introduced in this Economic Aid Act is now called the second draw. So if you did not receive a PPP the first time around, you can now apply for the first draw PPP, and that means it's going to follow the first draw rules, which means you don't need the 25% reduction in revenue. Your company can be a maximum of 500 employees rather than 300 employees, you know, just different rules there. But you can apply for first draw PPP. Now, if you already received the PPP, you would want to apply for the second draw PPP. And that one has the rules where you need at least a 25% revenue reduction year over year, under 300 employees, a few other things, all right? So what about this NAICS rule for the second draw PPP? If you haven't heard of it, if you are a business in hospitality, restaurants, bars, that kind of thing, your business NAICS code starts with a 72. And for second draw PPP, if your business NAICS code starts with 72, you're eligible for 3.5 times average monthly payroll costs rather than 2.5 times average monthly payroll costs, which means you are eligible for a larger loan for second draw. So that's good news there. And you know, I'm sure many people know that already, but I think that's important to point out because that industry during the pandemic was the hardest hit. And so you get a little bit bigger of a loan this time around. Now, one question I'm getting a lot is, can you apply for both first draw and second draw this round? Okay, and that's a good question because there's no real definitive guidance on that, but we can kind of infer on what has been said and what has not been said. Okay, so if you did not receive the PPP in 2020, obviously you would apply for first draw right now. Okay, so you would get the first draw. The question is, can you then apply for second draw? And in my opinion, the answer is yes, you can, technically. So technically you can apply for a second draw, but whether or not it will work out, that's more of a shaky issue, okay? So one of the requirements for second draw is that you use up your first draw funds. That means you can technically be eligible for second draw this time around, even if you applied for first draw this time around. If you apply for the first draw and then use up the funds properly in 8 weeks, and then apply for the second draw, and then if there's still enough funding left in the program for you to get funded, and if there's still enough time left in the program for you to get funded, then in my opinion, you should be able to receive the second draw as well. So yes, in my opinion, unless the SBA might come out with a ruling to kind of squash this idea. But as of right now, you should be eligible to do both, not at the same time, but in series with each other. The chances of doing that are a little lower, again, because of the timing. You got to get funded for your first draw, use up the funds in 8 weeks, apply for second draw, and then also have the second draw get funded to you within the proper time, and to make sure there's enough funding. Now, if you're planning on doing this, then I highly recommend you don't apply for forgiveness after your first draw runs out, okay? Because once you apply for forgiveness, it puts your account under review status, and if you're under review status, then you're not eligible to apply for a second draw loan. So after you use up your first draw, don't apply for forgiveness yet. Just apply for the second loan, okay? If that's what you're planning to do. So that's my tip there. If this is actually a real thing that's doable, that's my tip there. All right, so if you're a partnership or a multi-member LLC, how is your loan amount calculated? How is your eligible payroll costs calculated? So first, obviously, if you have any W-2 employees, you would use those numbers. If you have any employees that are paid over $100,000 a year, you would limit their figures to $100,000. And then for each partner or each managing member, you would want to look on your 2019 or 2020 K1, okay? You're gonna add up all the numbers in the box on the K1 that's labeled net earnings from self-employment. Okay, add all those numbers up from all the K1s. Obviously, if there's any partner that makes over $100,000 in that box, limit that to $100,000, okay? Once you add up all the net earnings from self-employment boxes, you would multiply that by 0.9235. And that's your partner compensation number that you would use. And obviously, if you have W-2 employees, you would add that figure in, divided by 12, that's your average monthly payroll costs, times 2.5, that's your loan amount. And obviously 3.5 if you fall under the hospitality and restaurant type of industry. So how do you calculate loans for sole proprietors or single member LLCs taxed as sole proprietors? Well, you just go on your Schedule C 2019 or 2020, go to line 31, that's your net income there. You take that number, okay, add it to any W-2 costs or payroll costs that you might be paying to other employees, add those two together, divided by 12 times 2.5 or 3.5, okay? Simple enough there. And now the last thing I'm going to go over is S corporations. How do you calculate loan amounts for S corporations? Because a lot of people last year that I've ran into were very disappointed when they were not eligible for the PPP because they were taking advantage of S corporation taxes, or they were using the S corporation as a tax strategy. And it is a very viable tax strategy, but there is a requirement if you are an owner of an S corporation. If you're an active owner of an S corporation, you are required to pay yourself a salary, a reasonable salary, a W-2 salary. So if you are doing that, you would take your W-2 salary that you're paying yourself and you figure out your average monthly payroll cost there times 2.5 or 3.5. You cannot use S corporation distributions as payroll costs. You can't use net income from your corporation as payroll costs. You can only use W-2 wages, all right? So that's it for that, and that's all I got for today. Please reach out in the comments if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them for you. It's a crazy time for me right now, so I'll do my best, okay? And again, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to my channel, and obviously smash that like button or gently caress it if you found this video helpful. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining me, and take care and stay safe.
I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a sticker. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flicker.